So with Uranus, the next planet, Uranus wasn't discovered until 1781. And so traditional astrology up to that point just used the planets up to Saturn and did very well with it. But the outer planets, Uranus, Neptune and Pluto, they really show incredibly modern influences. There's been a huge revolution in the world since the discovery of Uranus, Neptune and Pluto. The population has expanded tenfold. Industry, the industrial age has transformed life. And Uranus is the beginning of this. It's the application of technological knowledge to revolutionize society. And as such, Uranus represents, in the horoscope, it represents forces, collective forces from the outside which are going to affect you as an individual. And it shows where you're completely unique and also where you tend to be extremely provocative. So Uranus can be quite a troublemaker in many ways in the horoscope, but it's also where you get inspiration and enlightenment. And Uranus itself, it has many moons, and it's got this extraordinary, where most planets revolve on their axis vertically, Uranus revolves on its axis horizontally, and that is a kind of typical of Uranus. It always does things the opposite way to anything else. So people are very, very contrary where Uranus is in the horoscope. And the year Uranus was discovered, mankind in France, in Paris, the Montgolfier balloon rose into the air. Uranus is connected with the air and the conquering of the third dimension of leaving the earth and coming up into the heavens. And of course, the Uranus therefore has to do with flight, and it has to do with jet aircraft and spacecraft and this whole technological exploration of our world and the solar system. Uranus is also connected with the electricity. So Uranus is where Uranus is, it's all electric. And that means there's a tremendous power of attraction and there's a tremendous power of repulsion. The thing about Uranus is it creates these lightning fast events, and at the same time it kind of if Uranus is powerful in your horoscope, like if it's related to Moon, which is your emotional life, for example, it can show situations where you've been repelled, and it shows a sort of sense of disconnection or isolation. So Uranus can be like an electric fence or a short circuit or something like that in your personal life. People with personal planets, that's Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus and Mars, in connection with Uranus, have this tendency to disconnect and sometimes do things very suddenly. And then we have the explosion of Challenger, and this is a strange thing. When the Voyager spacecraft was traveling from late 1970, it went past Jupiter, and then it went past Saturn, and it finally reached Uranus in 1985 or 6. At the very moment Uranus, the Voyager passed Uranus and satellite pictures were coming back to Earth, the Challenger space shuttle also exploded. And that is related to the fact that Uranus is so much connected with revolution and explosions, unpredictable events. And it's a funny thing, but when a spacecraft goes past the planet, you'll see that with Neptune, something happens on Earth which is totally transformative, or reflects this planet, the effect or the characteristic of this planet. So Uranus is connected with explosions, bombs, and things like that as well. So this is one of the most viewed explosions ever seen. And Uranus is also connected with revolution, because as Uranus was to do this technological revolution, what happened was that everybody was like working on farms in the late 17th, 18th century. But people started congregating more in cities and around factories and working as a mass movement. And people were working as, on assembly lines, in a mass, and they had to organize themselves so they wouldn't be exploited. So everything to do with trade unions and strikes and revolutions, also national revolutions, is very much connected with Uranus. The American Revolution and the French Revolution occurred roughly within 10 years of the discovery of Uranus. So Neptune is a completely different influence to Uranus. Uranus is so kind of sudden and unexpected in its influence. Neptune is far more subtle and difficult to put your finger on. It's like fog. It's not something you notice until it happens. It's like a river that slowly undermines the earth beneath a tree, which then at some point falls in the river. It's a force, it's like the sea that comes against you. Build your sandcastle on the beach, nothing you can do can stop the sea from removing the sand and removing your work. So Neptune is some power in the universe that dissolves things when the time has come, and nothing you can do can stop that dissolving. What you have to do is to understand that there's higher forces at work, and everything that you build and everything that was important for you, all the material things, the money or success or whatever, from the point of view of Neptune, this is not what's important in life. You have to ask yourself the question with Neptune when you're on your deathbed: what have you done in life that's really been worthwhile? And Neptune's a beautiful planet with many moons, and each of the moons going around Neptune is actually related to The Tempest, written by Shakespeare. It was a very dreamy and imaginative, a fantasy play in actual fact, and Neptune is just so full of fantasy. So the way to handle Neptune is like this guy is handling Neptune. That's like through meditation. To stop all the unnecessary activity around you, slow down, turn on, tune in, and discover that there's very powerful forces within, which can be very enriching, and you just need to get off the merry-go-round for a bit. Neptune's also connected with whales and the sea, of course. The reason I say whales is because whales are probably really intelligent creatures, but their minds are completely different from ours. I once met a person who was swimming underwater and came face to face with a whale, and she said that it was the most extraordinary experience because the whales looked at her, and she felt it was more intelligent. But Neptune has this kind of power of nature in it, or power of a natural intelligence. It's not the rational mind like we use so much, the ability to think logically and all that. That's not Neptune. Neptune is much more powerful ability to encompass everything. And the time of Neptune's discovery, apart from the fact that it was the rise of socialism and the communist thought, because the idea behind Neptune is this idealistic dream that we should all be equal. But at the same time, also Neptune's connected with drugs. And at the time of Neptune's discovery in 1846, it was the first use of ether to anesthetize people so they didn't feel anything. So it was the beginning, in the sense of healthcare, hospitals, idealistic, including everybody in a kind of health system. But it was also the time when photographs were first developed, and as soon as you had photographs, you had the ability to manipulate reality. And film and Hollywood is a way of using photographs, many of them, during the second to show things that don't necessarily exist. But it's a magical world which we can all lose ourselves in and feel exalted by, or just escape from life. And that's a very typical Neptune thing. And Neptune is also related to the tsunami effect. If you have an influence of Neptune in your life, it's a little bit like this tsunami. It sweeps away old things, and you have to build. It's not like a dramatic tsunami. It's a slow tsunami where you tune in to more important values and then rebuild according to those values. So Pluto was discovered in 1930. It's a very small planet, and recently it was demoted to be a dwarf planet. But astrologers don't want to take any notice of that because it really does seem to be incredibly powerful in the horoscope. It's like, although it's very small, smaller than the Earth, it seems that it has, the very fact that it's small gives it a power beyond, in inverse proportion to its size. And Pluto is connected with collective forces which create sort of mass movements or mass feelings, anxiety really, and then the resultant actions that society takes to protect against that anxiety. So it was actually discovered in 1930, which was just as Hitler was rising to power. And this whole the whole extremist thinking of fascism and this use of symbols, frightening symbols, and this mass, the way people almost become robots, is one rather negative manifestation of the way Pluto works. Interestingly, Hitler had Uranus rising as well, so he it was very powerful. Uranus was also powerful. So he at this time when he came to power, Uranus was in Aries, and he believed in the power of the Aryan, white supremacy and all that. And of course, Pluto is when they split the atom, and this ultimately ended in the nuclear bomb. You can say, well, isn't this a little bit anxiety producing? And yes, Pluto, everybody was anxious, extremely anxious in the 50s, 60s and 70s as Russia and America built up their nuclear arsenals, and everybody felt that the world could end any moment. And that's very typical of Pluto. It's like this sense that everything could end unless we do something. And in actual fact, there's been a long period of peace through this anxiety, and it's sort of created sort of much more powerful international cooperation, arms control, and stuff like that. But there we are, powerful picture. And today, Pluto's connected with anxiety in society. So surveillance cameras are an expression of anxiety. And people say, well, yeah, it makes us safe. It's safe to photograph people, but at the same time, what is happening is there's a sort of mass surveillance, and it's all stored in databases, and that's rather like a Pluto thing, because Pluto's so easily connected to autocratic governments or dictatorship or extremism in society. It's okay if you've got a nice, fair, open, democratic society, but it's going to be rather dangerous if it isn't. And Pluto's connected to anything that can be replicated. So robots are also an expression of Pluto, and these films that you see like Terminator and other films, iRobot here, they're very connected to this sort of inborn anxiety. Will the machine take over? And of course the machine is taking over, and it's pretty great. all these boring jobs in assembly lines with cars, etc., are now automated, and the repetitive movements are done by robots instead of human beings. And in actual fact, that's an improvement. So there's always this great side to Pluto's influence and an anxiety-producing side at the same time. So that's a quick run-through of the planets. And we just lack a few extra ingredients before we can really interpret the horoscope well. But already, knowing where the planets are, in which sign they are, you know a tremendous amount about the personal psychology of somebody. So the sun will show in which sign they are, will show how they feel about themselves. The moon will show how they feel about their attachment. Venus will show how they feel in love and relationships. Mars will show how they feel about expressing their drive, power, and competitiveness. Jupiter will show how good they are at how comfortable they are with visualizing a positive future. And Saturn will show how good they are at handling the challenges that arise. And Uranus will show what very, very special circumstances can inspire. And Neptune will show what perhaps sufferings that you have and how you respond spiritually to that. And Pluto will show how you psychologically transform. So we already can place the planets in the horoscope. We know a whole lot about them, about a person's character just from the planets in the signs. So this is the jigsaw puzzle. This is what you got to get into place. We have a little bit more to learn, and when we've learned that, you'll be in a position, when we've learned about the aspects and we've learned about the houses, you'll be in a position to interpret the horoscope, and there are simply no limits to what you'll be able to see when you become proficient at this. So keep at it. It gets much more exciting, really fantastic. I'll see you next time. Thank you.